Oh, and we're live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of GeekVerse Podcast. I am your host, Taylor Field, and today I'm going to be talking about Halo, the series. I am alone. It's funny because episode 1, we had the whole squad here. Episode 2 is down to me and Dylan, and now here I am, and I am on my own. This is dangerous to be letting me talk about this show, but here we are. A couple of plugs before we get underway. You can find us in the search bar with your internet connection. GeekVerse.ca is our home base. GeekVerseCast is our Twitter, and GeekVerse on our Facebook. But be sure to check out our Patreon where you can get ad-free exclusive early episodes and a whole variety of other content available there and some cool little perks. Definitely worth tuning into. You can also find us on, well, all your social media channels, really. But we are, I just lost my train of thought. I'm going too fast. You can find us with all these new episodes that we're doing now. We have side quests that Dylan's leading the charge with. New episodes every Monday. We're going to be doing, me and Dylan actually, Lego Star Wars The Skywalker Saga. That'll be a review coming out next week, which is going to be fantastic. This weekend we got the Sonic Hedgehog 2 review coming. We have maybe an ambulance review. I can't confirm. I know someone in the podcast is seeing it. I believe Travis is. And then a couple other things. But yeah, this next month is just going to be loaded with reviews. We got Fantastic Beasts Part 3 to reviewing. Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. I think that's the full title there with Nick Cage and Pedro Pascal. So whole load of things to tune into. So yeah, but we're talking Halo today, and specifically the third episode. Now, before I get into spoilers, I'm going to do some non-spoilers first and just share my thoughts. So I was kind of really brewing today and getting really angry because God forbid you can't go seconds or minutes without them prominent companies posting things, news companies posting things for episodes literally the day of. This show dropped at midnight, and now literally less than 12 hours later they've already posted something, and it's just not just a title but a god forbidden screenshot of a scene. So I saw some screenshots and it started to get me really riled up, but I'll talk about that in the spoilers. But getting a little riled up and being angry though going into this episode, the episode overall, it kind of grounded me, it brought me down a little bit, and I felt really good at times, but it's still hitting a roadblock that's just kind of like tearing at me a little bit, which sucks because a part of me really wants to love this, and who doesn't? You get a show, you get something that's really just jiving with you, that is, your passion, your franchise you've grown up with. You want to love it, but when it's doing things that can kind of like wear at you a little bit, and I'm not sure with myself here, where I'm watching this show and there are things that I'm enjoying in this episode. Is that because I'm identifying things that this show is relating to throughout all the books and games I've played of Halo, and I'm enjoying those little things? Or is it just something that's a new perspective that I like? I'm just very conflicted on it, and that's hopefully going to be resolved as I get further into this show and watch a few more episodes. But I got excited at times watching the show because it just made me kind of think about the narrative and just the kind of progression and where it could go. But that's not really a result of what the show was doing, that I was like, oh, I'm really enjoying this scene, I'm really enjoying this dialogue or this aesthetic. I'm reminded as I watch these moments of what I would like to see and what I would really like. So then again, I'm kind of conflicted at times throughout this episode with that kind of brain mentality going on, I guess you could say. But needless to say, got through the episode, and I am much more excited for next week's episode than I was after watching the premiere and then the second episode last week leading to this one. Now I'm actually, and it's ending on a cliffhanger that I can get on board with, that I'm actually excited to see, which is good. That's what an episode should do. Travis mentioned something that these 3 episodes should have released all at once, kind of like what HBO Max did with Peacemaker, and I could not agree more. Holy shit. If these were the 3 episodes that all released at once, it would have been so much easier to kind of condense my thoughts and kind of just dissect how I was feeling and then end on this cliffhanger. It would have been great. But no, they've done one at a time, and I think that is something that has probably hurt it a little bit, actually, and at least it's hurt it for me. The score continues to be great, and again, there are elements that I am enjoying. So that's all the non-spoilers I can kind of throw at you right now. But I'm going to jump to a quick ad break, and then we're going to dive right into some spoilers. So we will be right back. And we're back. Okay, so 3, 2, 1. We're in spoiler territory. I saw Naked Chief, and it's just a picture of it that the news article posted online, just flat up his naked body. And I'm just thinking, I complained about this to Dylan last week. We're not, it's just with Chief, they just keep taking parts off of him. And I vented to Travis, sent him like paragraphs about this. I was getting so choked, but my God, we got the helmet off in the first episode. Okay, we're running with that. That's fine. And then the second episode, most of his armor just completely came off, and he was just wearing his bio skin tight suit, whatever you want to call it. And now we just see him full on naked. And I mean, he's wearing his armor less and less as we go on per episode. And this is what I raged at. I was telling Travis, and Travis wasn't messaging me because he was working, and I was ranting to him. This is kind of where I don't want to fall into that category of as one of these fans, because I've seen the dialogue, I've seen the comment sections of Halo fans kind of being attacked and then also doing the attacking to this show. I don't want to be a part of that community. I want to be able to enjoy this for what it is, and I'm trying my hardest, but then it's doing things that, like I said, I'm running into roadblocks with, and I'm having, like I mentioned, that issue where, okay, they have this trajectory in the episode where I'm associating certain points with elements from the books and the games that I like. But is that the show proving itself to be something that I can get on board with, or is it just fluke, really, that I'm liking certain things because of my perspective of Halo and what I enjoy? Like, for instance, when Chief was walking and he just took his pellet out of his spine, he's walking around, and he's seeing everything, and he's just acting and emoting very Chief-like, but he's engaging and enjoying the things he sees. I love that. I really, really like that scene a lot, but at the same time, I wish that he was wearing his armor. I didn't even need to see his face in there. That was probably more or less just, hey, this is Pablo, emote for the people watching. Fine, that's okay, I get it. But in that context and that whole setup there, it was just so nice and enjoyable to see him, at least to a degree, preferably with the mask on, in my perspective, but to see him kind of enjoy humanity, because those are things that I've always experienced playing as Master Chief in the games, when, even though you don't see his face, and even in Halo 2, you get to have these swift moments where he is just there, and there's a bunch of ambitious human dialogue going on around with Sergeant Johnson or Marines or whatnot, or the Arbiter, and there's just mannerisms that you can't see in Chief because of the mask, but you can just tell that there's something going on there, and that something is a dose of humanity. That was represented in this scene much more blatantly, and I really I did enjoy that. So I'm going to give it to them for this episode for doing something very bold like that and pulling it off. The whole thing with Cortana, now we get a whole heavy dose of her. Maybe there's some form of media that kind of discusses how Cortana was more so problematic for Chief at the beginning. I always took it as, hey, they were introduced and they just clicked, and Chief always had this sweet spot for Cortana. In this episode, it was the opposite. It was, hey, I'm getting a babysitter, I'm not okay with being observed, not jiving with it, and that's all she wrote. So she's trying to come off as being friendly when Halsey's acting like, hey, you're sort of a spy, but at the same time, you want to watch out for him and everything like that. That's what the Cortana program is for. That's okay as well. I mean, Cortana's supposed to watch over the Spartan program and watch over Master Chief. I'm not really big on the whole backstory of like, hey, you do have to be a spy. And I'm hoping that does get kind of left in behind and can flash away in the dust, because I want Cortana to be putting Chief first and the UNSC first and humanity first, as opposed to, hey, Halsey, like, he's trying to open this door and break the law, what are we gonna do about it? That's not really what I want to see. I want to see that genuine Cortana. I will say it was very refreshing and nice to hear Cortana's voice. When you listen with the headphones on at the end and Cortana's speaking, it sounds much more like, hey, she's in your head. It feels like they changed how her audio and her dialogue was kind of coming in through the episode, which I really enjoyed. We got a little bit more kind of, not really context, but just more mystery around that other Spartan of Silver team, where she's just seeing Cortana, and I'm not sure if it's jealousy or what, but when Chief removes his pellet and Cortana's sitting there, she kind of just is watching and observing in secret. I don't know, she's starting to not trust Halsey, doesn't like Cortana, is going to try and kill Cortana, I don't know. there's something going on there that I'm sure we'll get into, but I am almost imagine they'll save it for like a finale or a season 2 sort of thing. They highlighted a few other moments too in this episode as well, with kind of the coin flipping that John's doing when he's young, which was very cool because that's a good nod to, Fall of Reach with John as a kid. We're getting kind of a little bit of insight into more of his past as well as the planet he's looking for. And there's just this overly emotional thing going on with Chief that I'm sorry, I just can't accept. It's just too much. I'm used to this wall of a Spartan who's not showing anything, and the armor and the mask really do help with that. But he's just shrugs and slaps back into his chair when he can't find it in his search query. It's like, are you kidding me? This is the problem that Master Chief is having right now. And again, I thought it was a very cool way for the connection between Cortana and Chief to kind of form and build something into their relationship. But I'm only liking that because they set the bar here where they don't have a good relationship, where they started right off the hop not liking, well, Chief not liking Cortana, and now they're working at repairing that. And I feel like that's just a shoehorned in extra story plot that they just want to put in for entertainment, which we didn't need. I would have preferred it if they did it the latter, where she just got on board with him, he got on board with her, and they moved on. But he's just so emotional in this series. I'm trying to interpret it and trying to keep up with it, but he just shows these different tendencies and how he's acting and his mannerisms, and it is getting a bit too much. I do hope that he calms down a little bit, but with the pellet out, I mean, that's probably off the table, and I am very alarmed and very afraid of what we're going to be seeing from Chief. Hopefully it does calm down. I'm trying to think what else we got popping off here. I mean, aside from his human emotions, he doesn't put the armor on until the very end of the episode, and we get to learn there's another artifact that goes in with this current artifact, which is good. We got a little bit more backstory, so people watching this and don't know much about Halo can understand, okay, this is a semi-organic artifact that existed over 100,000 years ago, which is Forerunner technology, obviously. And obviously, we know this leads them to the Halo ring. So that is that. I think I should probably take one more ad break here, and then we'll be right back. And we're back. So this kind of segues now to this other character, pardon me, that I wasn't initially too hopped up on at first, but I really got on board with her character in this episode. And I'm glad I'm saying more positives than negatives. I mean, I hold a lot of concerns still, but this character, when she was abducted, we see at the beginning of this episode how she was inducted into the Covenant. So she was working on some UNSC, I'm assuming some rundown prison planet, possibly, and the kids are just being beaten to shit here. Holy fuck, like just annihilated, and this boy pretty much was killed. And she takes this book and she's running, and the humans are chasing her, and all of a sudden a Covenant Corvette appears and an elites drop out, and there's just two elites looking for this artifact, which is very uncovenanty. I feel like if they're looking for an artifact that they have a lead on, they would have showed up with much more force and just killing tons of humans. I think it is an absolute fluke that elite did not kill the girl. The one elite said, hey, it must be behind this creature, and the other elite just kind of like closed in. That scene was absolutely incredible. I'm gonna give it to them there too. I love that. I love how the girl was just kind of like holding onto her, grabbed her book and was just kind of like chilling there, and the elite was just like, the thing was beeping more, and he was like looking at her and getting closer. Absolutely incredible scene. Really liked it. I'm happy that we had that. And then she stood up, and you could just see the acknowledgement in the elite and just kind of accept what he was accepting, just the honor emanating from her, I guess, the willingness to abide and go along. And so now we see her upbringing, and that transcends to how, okay, she's going on this mission to get the artifact. The Covenant Corvette comes out dead in space, and I was like, holy shit, I'm getting flood vibes. This is sick. I'm really digging this. And the UNSC opens up their gates, lets her come in. They really did a shit job at detecting life forms and just kind of like preparing themselves, because the Legolos, which are the hunter worms, just flooded that ship out the wazoo, killed everyone. The one thing that I really didn't like is this is like, what is going on now? This cosmetic feature that's a weapon. She stabs the captain, but she's got nail energy swords. Oh no. I mean, every interpretation, I'm gonna hold my breath. It's fine, but oh my gosh, I'm just not really into that. I think it's a cool concept that it's hidden and everything like that, but me personally, I'm not into it. It's just not for me. So I guarantee you she's gonna whip those Catwoman energy nails out on Master Chief, on John the Demon. So that'll be interesting to see how that happens. And I'm curious to see, is it just one on her one finger, or does she got a whole bunch on all her fingers? We'll get to it. Maybe she's got them on her toenails too. Who knows? Why stop there? So here we are. They abandon that ship, and she's still continuing on looking for John Demon and all that stuff to get the artifact. And I am excited to see where that route's gonna go, because she made a threat to the prophets, like, hey, I'm gonna bring John's head back, so you guys won't just get the artifact, you get the demon too. So that'll be cool. The other thing I'm very curious too is if we're gonna see any more on the whole mentality of Halsey basically dealing with creating Cortana. Again, Cortana was in this episode. I really did enjoy a lot of her. I was very curious though, seeing, okay, we get this clone finally, and that's what I was curious on, was how they're going to use the clone. But I suspected, okay, they're probably going to use her for the brain matter, because obviously Cortana was created using organic brain matter from Halsey, but Halsey can't use herself. So yeah, she created the clone. This was cool to see them have that dialogue and engage. It felt a little bit too long, because they just axed the character and burned her in acid. So that was a brutal scene, seeing the eye open and then the thing go. That was some Dead Space stuff going on. That's what that was. But sure enough, we got the scene over with, and the clone is dead now, and now we got Cortana as a living successor. So that's that. I'm wondering if we'll see any new AIs, because obviously there are a lot of AIs in this time period, but it seemed like the way John mentioned it was like, hey, this is a new AI that Halsey's working on. So there's that. Moving on from there, we get more of the Madrigal kind of backstory. Quan, if I remember her name correctly, is still with Soren, and she's like, hey, I gotta go out, I gotta go fight. I'm not super big into seeing where that kind of goes with the UNSC having some low-key alliance, basically, or anything like that with this not pirate dude, but this leader of some resistance thing or whatever. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of goes. But other than that, I think I've nailed everything for the most part. There's some elements that I am on board with, that I'm liking, but I don't know. This episode is definitely the better of the three for me personally. And I would probably attribute that heavily to John just walking along and experiencing humanity. I love those moments when he grounds himself, but he's just becoming too emotional now outside of that scene, and it's really kind of compromising my appreciation for the character. I wasn't going to get into this, but I watched a few interviews with Pablo and just how he's reacting and stuff. And I think I mentioned this in last week's episode review, where I was just not really sold on his passion for this character in this franchise. And seeing him in this role now in this episode, like, I liked it, and I think he could play an absolute fantastic consistently under the armor Master Chief. But all the time outside of the armor, maybe he just needs to be like, maybe they gotta shave his head or take away his chin scruff, because he looks again like he just is like shown with Ryan Gosling at the bar or something like that. He's just too polished. That being said, though, I'm still giving the show a chance. I'm not gonna allot myself, and I don't want to be allotted into that group of community Halo people that are just attacking this show or anything like that, because I do think that there is hope, and hopefully we'll get to see it. So that's where I'm gonna cap out this review. I hope you enjoyed it, and hopefully the other dudes will be back next week when we dive into it. So until next time, everyone, I am Taylor, and I'll see you in the search bar. Have a good one, everybody.